Hey everybody, hope you're having a good week. Welcome to Teaching Tips. I just went live and didn't tell Brittany I was going live.
I was like, I wonder why my app is blank. Great. And he's like, hey everybody.
That's funny. So, hi Brett.
Hi.
Today we're going to talk teaching tips. And we're going to do something a little bit different for fun. I'm giving 3 tips today. So we're giving 3 tips on...
You look down at your hands like...
1, 2, 3. We're giving 3 tips as far as the not so perfect homeschool. And I want you to remember the 3 tips. I'm going to give them easy. At the end of my little talk here on teaching tip, I'm going to ask you if you can write out the 3 tips. And then from the people who are able to put the 3 tips out, Brittany's going to choose somebody to give 2,500 reward points to. That's fun. It's always fun to give reward points. Which is $25. It's like a gift card, $25 gift card to Master Books is what that is. So we're happy for that. Okay, so I want to talk about perfectionism because perfectionism is something that's, it's not something I've struggled with, but it definitely is something that is part of the homeschool community. Those around me wish I dealt with a little more perfectionism, probably.
We compliment each other.
So we're going to do 3 tips, and it's not all comprehensive. They're just 3 tips that you could easily apply to your brain to dealing with perfectionism. The first tip, let's be realistic. Let's be realistic. Life has ups, it has downs. We come into this kind of a fairy tale that everything is perfect. It's like marriage. We think everything in marriage is going to be perfect. It's not realistic. There are good times, there are bad times. There are times that you feel loved, there are times you feel hated. There are times that you've got it all together, there are times you have nothing together. The better mental frame of mind to go into life with is 50% of the time, bad things happen. 50% of the time, good things happen. And when you have an expectation that there may be bad times, there may be imperfect times. There are times my kids are going to be darn near perfect. And then there are going to be times where I'm embarrassed to say they're my kids. That's just the reality of life. Oh, give me a break. Like you don't have moments of embarrassment to say I'm your dad.
No. Also, we have a lot of people jumping in saying hi. So a special shout out to everybody who's commenting. A lot of people are cleaning out their schoolrooms and listening.
They're perfectionists.
Well, I think it's the end of the school year and everybody's kind of wrapping up and getting the schoolroom clean. And I think that's what you're doing. Let us know if that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
But hello to everybody jumping in. We are happy that you are joining us.
Absolutely. So we want to have a realistic expectation that some days we are going to be perfect. We are. And then there are other days that we're going to be less than perfect. And when less than perfect happens, if you're already accepting it and almost expecting it, is that what I just said? Yeah. If you're expecting it.
If you're expecting it, you're almost expecting it.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Exactly.
And it is what they're doing. They're all cleaning out their schoolrooms.
Exactly. Good.
Because school is over.
So let's be realistic, number 1. Number 2, that was then, this is now. Take a picture of me, if you could. Could you grab me a picture?
I can.
Okay, so you ready?
Mm-hmm.
I want to do the shoulder. Okay, here we go. Did you get my picture? All right. Yeah, it was okay. Okay.
You're welcome.
So, see, she took a picture of me and I was there. But that was then, and this is now. So many times what we compare ourselves to was another season of life. This was a season where I was prepared for this picture and we were here in that moment. But now I'm not in that moment. And when we compare ourselves to social media, we compare ourselves to images or we want our children to look like the images that we see in a Master Books catalog. They are your children, actually, in the Master Books catalogs. But when I want my children to look like your children look like in the Master Books catalog, and it doesn't look that way, I have to remind myself that that was then, that was that moment in time that was captured. Now, I I did my picture. I put my chest up, I pulled my gut in, I smiled, I looked amazing, and she took my picture. At the moment that picture was done, what happened? I relaxed, my shoulders went down, and I went back to life. Why? Because that was then, this is now. And when we're talking about perfection, we have to understand that there are seasons in life, and some seasons are more perfect than others. Some seasons we have the capacity and the resources to devote ourselves to a little bit higher of a game. And then there are times when you just go through a season of life where it's near impossible. Baby years, those are tough. Launching kids, those are tough. Just life in general, health issues, financial issues, these things all make it very difficult to be perfect all of the time. So number 2, that was then, this is now. Live in the moment and appreciate the moment. Number 3, love the one you're with. Love the family you have, not the family you wish you had. I think when we're growing up, or even as we're adults, we have these ideas in our heads of who it is we were going to marry, who our kids were going to be, what they were going to be like. Or maybe it's my sister-in-law's kids, or the neighbor's kids, or her family, or her husband. Or we look at these things and we see this picture that we've made into an image, and we want our children to be that way. I think being able to love the family I have and appreciate the family I have, maybe even appreciating their uniqueness, that they're not like the family there, and that we have a little bit of our own identity. Because when we try to make our families, our children, our husband, our spouses, something different than what they are, it's disappointment. Comparison is the death of happiness. And the moment I start comparing my family to somebody else's family, that's where this unrealistic expectation comes into play. You know, perfectionism isn't all a bad thing. Perfectionism is a desire to do things right and to do it well. And I'm challenged by the perfectionists in my life. What?
Nothing. I agree. We complement each other well, because I'm very perfectionistic, but that means that like I'm tied into all the details. So we work well in that he's good at seeing the big picture, seeing what all the details will amount up to, while I'm good at like executing the plans then that he puts together.
Right. Yeah, and we have moderators as well that work with us that are perfectionists, and they do a fantastic job, and I am so thankful for the perfectionistic tendencies that they have, because they up and raise the game. And so I think it's important to have perfectionists who raise the bar and do things well. I just don't like it when my perfectionists in my life struggle with anxiety or depression because life happens and they can't manage all of that. Sometimes perfectionism can be rooted in fear, and fear can be an awful taskmaster. If you own the perfectionism, if you raise it to the bar of, listen, we're going to have a fantastic schoolroom, my kids are going to do well in what they do, and I'm going to contribute to that, I think that's good, as long as we also know that some days we're not going to, and some seasons we're not going to, and sometimes our family photo is going to look amazing, and sometimes it's going to have one of the grandkids with his finger up his nose. That just happens. So my 3 things, let's be realistic. That was then, this is now. 3, love the one you're with. Those are my 3 tips today for dealing with perfectionism. One of the things that I was in a video call with Kristen just before this, and I said, what's your tip? What would you give as a tip? So this is her bonus tip, and I think it was really good. It was, look at your overall goal or your destination. That's what you want to be perfect, is the destination, not the journey that it takes to reach it. And so maybe today wasn't perfect, but we're working towards the destination. And if you think about it, I'm making somebody's anxiety worse.
Well, no, Skittles said I forgot a kid in the family pic once.
That's awesome. That's awesome. If we remember the ultimate goal, as opposed to how we get there, I think that's a really good tip. So that was the bonus tip of today. Yes. Okay. So if you have questions, or if you can tell me what the 3 tips were that we just gave, so Brittany can pick somebody to give 2,500 reward points to. She's watching, and she's watching for. Was there any questions or any comments?
There's some comments throughout there. We have a lot of perfectionists in the group.
Yeah. I think perfectionism is like part of the homeschool journey, right? Because a lot of times somebody chooses to homeschool because they want more. Like, I think, you know what I'm saying?
I realized something interesting this week that kind of ties into my perfectionism. It's that I get frustrated at myself for having emotions. If I'm trying to get a task done and something is causing me stress or anxiety, I get frustrated at myself for that, and which only makes it worse. It like amplifies that feeling even more, because I feel like I'm supposed to like be a rock emotionally, and so I get frustrated at myself for having emotions. So allowing yourself room for emotions in that as well.
Good. Yeah, I think sometimes when we have the loss of expectation, when I had an expectation that my life was going to look like this, and instead it looks like this, it's okay to actually give yourself that permission to grieve the loss of what you thought you were going to have in order to accept what you do have. Doesn't mean you lower your standards. It just means that reality is different. And you know, God is so interesting, because sometimes He gives us a different journey to the destination that we're going towards, and we don't always realize. Like even the role that we serve here at the press. 10 years ago, when we were selling our business and going into full-time ministry and all of that, I didn't see this. I didn't see that He was doing a detour, but it was because He wanted to give us insights into some scenery that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. And I'm happy He did. I'm happy that He was the one who guided the journey rather than us doing that. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't a place where we didn't just have to kind of grieve that loss and accept that hurt. And our brain is funny. If we don't have that closure or the ability to have closure, our brain will continue to try to repeat the same. It'll try to right the wrong, and sometimes we have to do that.
Like you said, to help with my daughter's anxiety, I got her a punching bag to relieve stress. I just started doing that, and it definitely helps. Apollonia said, I forgot a kid at home once, so we started putting numbers on them.
Number system.
So am I choosing a name now or after the live?
It's up to you.
I've got one, because her name just stood out to me, so I've got her. I'm going to give the 2,500 reward points to Danielle Marie.
Okay. Danielle Marie. Okay.
She said, we should score. We gotta score her answers.
Okay.
Make sure.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, she said, let's be realistic.
Yep.
That was then, this is now.
Yep.
Love the one you're with.
Good.
Bonus, look at your overall goal / destination.
Yep, she got it. Okay. Let's give a bonus. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this teaching tip? We're not gonna only give. You'll pick somebody, and we're not. Be honest. We want to know was this a helpful teaching tip? Do you like teaching tips like this? On a scale of 1 to 10, is this something that? I once did a business course, and they would say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer this product to somebody else? And that was like the #1 estimation of whether or not they should do it. So you'll choose one other name, and we'll give away 2 reward points. I think Danielle Marie, we may need a last name. So.
Yeah. I'll friend you on the app right after this, and I'll get that information from you so that I can deposit the reward points in your account.
Yep.
And then I will choose somebody else after the end of this.
Okay.
That has put down a number 1 to 10.
Sometimes we use random number generators. So, good. All right. Good?
I'm good.
Good. Well, thank you, guys. We hope you're having a fantastic week. We thank you for joining us in the app and participating in the conversation here. The app is, to us, it's just a great way to connect with people in a more informal setting. Somebody's getting 10 trophies. That's really funny. Laura Wiersma, that's really funny. So, good. All right, guys. Good. Hey, have a good week, and we pray the Lord's blessing on you this long weekend, and as you clean your schoolrooms and get ready for next year.